Hey guys, it's Mrs. Reeves. This week we've been talking about rounding decimals. On Tuesday we took a blank hundreds grid and we filled it in counting by tenths instead of counting by ones. So this grid filled in this way is going to help us round to the nearest whole number. So we can look at the whole numbers over here on the left. And we also wrote in the whole numbers that would be at the beginning of each row. And those two columns will help us round our tenths. Let's say that I want to round 1 3/10. Well, I know the two whole numbers around 1 3/10 are the number 1 and the whole number 2. 1 3/10 is closer to one whole than it is two wholes. So 1 3/10 rounds down to one whole. Let's look at the numbers 7 7/10. We know the two whole numbers around 7 7/10 are the whole number 7 and the whole number 8. So if I look at 7 7/10, is it closer to 7 or to 8? Well, it's closer to 8. So I know that 7 7/10 is going to round up to the whole number 8. Now, we talked about this magic line right here between the 4 and the 5. Oh, that was not a very straight line, was it, guys? Between the 4 and the 5. Okay, 4/10 and 5/10. So what happens if I want to round 4 5/10? We know that he is surrounded by the whole number 4 and the whole number 5. But which is it closer to? It's the same distance from either one. So we know that when we get to the 5s, that the 5/10 or the 500ths or the whole number 5 is going to round up to the next number. So 4 5/10 is going to round up to the whole number 5. Now, today I had you go through and fill out a hundredths chart. So instead of counting by one wholes or counting by tenths, we counted by hundredths. And again, we can use this column on the right. We're going to look at the tenths over here. And we can look at, I wrote in the tenths over here on this left side. And we can use these two columns to help us round our hundredths to the nearest tenth. So again, we have this magic line again on our chart between the 4 and the 5. We know if we get to the 5 that it's going to round up to the next tenth. So if I start, let's look at 33 hundredths. What numbers, what 2/10 do we think 33 hundredths could round to? Well, it could round to 3/10 or it could round to 4/10. Which is 33 hundredths closer to? It is closer to 3/10. So 33 hundredths would round down to 3/10. What about 86 hundredths? We know it could either round down to the 8/10 or up to the 9/10. When we look at it, 86 hundredths is closer to 9/10. So it is going to round up to 9/10. And just like with the tenths chart, when I look at a number with a 5 in the hundredths place, I know it's the same distance to the 6/10 and to the 7/10. But when I see that 5 in the hundredths place, that tells me it's going to round up to 7/10. I'm going to start the rounding decimals worksheet with you guys. So if you don't have those yet, you can go ahead and pause the video and let the sub pass them out. And then we'll look at this together. So what we're going to do is you're going to have your journal at your desk. And we're going to use our journal to help us round these numbers to either the nearest whole number or the nearest tenth. So if you'll look at number 1, it says round 3 4/10 to the nearest whole number. So what I would like for you to do is let's write down 3 4/10, and we're going to round to the nearest whole number. That means the ones place. So what if I was going to round 3 4/10 to the lower number, what would it round to? Well, the lower whole number would be 3, and the higher whole number would be a 4. Okay, you can see that on your tenths chart in your journal. If you find 3 4/10, you can find the 3 on the far left side and the 4 on the far right side. And then what is 3 4/10 closer to? It's closer to 3 wholes. Now, number 2, you're going to do the same way. Number 3, same way. Number 4, it says the nearest dollar, around $8.70 to the nearest dollar. That also means the nearest ones place or the nearest whole number. Number 5 says round it to the nearest foot. Same thing, the ones place. Okay, it's talking about a whole number still. Now number 6 says round to the nearest tenth. So if I have 4 32/100ths, my lower number that it could round to would be 4 3/10, and my higher number would be 4 4/10. And again, you could use your hundredths chart that we made today in your journal and find 32/100ths. And then we're just adding the 4 in the front of it, the whole number 4. So is 32/100ths going to round to 3/10 or 4/10? If you look on your chart, 32/100ths rounds down to 3/10. So then we can say that 4 32/100ths rounds down to 4 3/10. So I would like for you to go ahead and finish the rest of this worksheet. Just how I showed you number 1 and number 6. I want you to write the number on either side, write what it could round to, and then I want you to show me with an arrow and circle the side, the whole number or the tenth that it would round to.